SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
At Community Bank, we're more than a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors and trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've helped families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. We're dedicated to your success every step of the way. Community Bank, member FDIC.
Savior of the universe.
Extraordinary intergalactical upsets.
There never is. Good morning. Lance is feeling some kind of way this morning, apparently. Welcome to Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Dave Hughes here. How you doing this morning, buddy?
Well, when you get here exactly 1 minute earlier than normal, you have time to do this kind of stuff.
You know, you think he's joking. Here's a little inside baseball on radio. 60 seconds can give you enough time to get 15, 20 minutes worth of work done.
It is amazing what all you can get done in such a short period of time. It really is. It'll kind of blow your mind a little bit. Once you get used to where everything is and how everything works.
Well, if you have systems in place, and by that I'm talking about just mental systems, the way you deal with stuff, you can get a lot done in a very small amount of time.
You know, I try. That's the thing. I really do try to go as fast without error as I possibly can in things that I do, just to try to push it a little bit. We were having this conversation. A guy that works in the building, a friend of mine, he has two young boys that have, they play every sport on the planet in that 8 and 9 year old, 10-year-old range. And he was asking me yesterday, he goes, man, how would you run an 8 and 9 year old practice when it comes to baseball now that they're all in the first year of kid pitch? I said, everything needs to be on a clock. Yes. Everything must be on a clock. They got to learn that. They got to learn that everything, you got to learn how fast you can move and how fast you need to be moving. And that's with drills and everything. And he was like, man, it's funny you say that, because he played college ball and basketball. And he goes, man, they kept us on a stopwatch on everything, and it would drive you crazy. I said, well, that's how you learn what your capacity is in sports a lot of times, is put you on the watch, man, make you push and push. So I've always kind of had that. I like to see how much I can get done as quickly as I can.
Well, and that the other thing that does, in addition to teaching you your own capabilities and your own limitations, it gets you used to probably one of the biggest principles that'll help you succeed in anything, which is always be moving.
Yeah. That's a very good point. My mother, when I was a kid, she would always say, at least look like you know where you're going. Makes a lot of difference in life. If you look like you know where you're supposed to be and where you're going.
So what you're telling me is she wanted you to run for office, and you let her down, because that's perfect definition.
Oh, I'm sure I've let the parents down. I think my sister is the one that's kind of on the top of the mountain. She's the good one. I'm kind of the black sheep a little bit. But hey, you roll with what you are and embrace those things. So that's how I ended up here with you guys, man.
I am a midnight black sheep myself, so yes, don't feel bad.
Yeah, man. Well, how's everything going with you?
Yeah, not bad. It hasn't been freezing. We haven't had storms. It's been a great week.
It's a good start to, it seems, a spring. It's springy weather lately.
It's fall spring.
Yeah. It's the start of baseball season. I know that. And with all that, you usually get a great opening day, and then we'll have winter again. That's generally how that works.
Every time.
Yeah, we'll have a wonderful weekend. I think the weather's going to cooperate in most places. In the Delta today is around 70 degrees. You'll have some clouds tonight. Tomorrow, a 30% chance of showers, and Saturday night showers will be likely, about 60%, I guess, or up to 100%, depending on where you are in the Delta, with some gusts of wind. And Sunday showers before noon, and then possibly some showers throughout the day. So this is the Delta. Sunday night, it'll drop down to about 49 degrees. So it'll cool off a little bit as the weekend progresses. And as we get over to the east portion of the state, Starkville area, Again, around the same type of weather today as Saturday looms. Partly sunny, about 75 degrees. Saturday night, showers with thunderstorms also possible after 3 o'clock, around 58 degrees. You'll have some wind blowing around, and that'll be the southeast type. 90% chance of rain, though, Saturday night in the Starkville area. Sunday, showers and possibly a thunderstorm before 9 a.m., and then maybe some throughout the day. So you'll intermittently, again, around 100% chance in the middle portion of the state from the Delta over to the Starkville area. Up in the northern part of the state, it'll be around 62 today. Cloudy again as the day moves on and into the evening. Tonight, it'll be about 43 degrees, so it'll be nice and crisp out there if you're in the northern portion of the state. Saturday, 20% chance of showers, high of around 64 degrees. Saturday night will be some showers and thunderstorms also possible after about 3 a.m. on Saturday night. Southeast winds and about a 90% chance of rain. Sunday, showers are likely as well, up around 100%. So going to be potentially a wet weekend around the state. And we get down to the coast, and Hattiesburg weather is probably going to be in that neck of the woods too. You know, it'll get some of the central and some of the southern. So you'll have some fog this morning, so be careful getting to work on the coast. Some fog tonight after 1 a.m., so if you're out and about, again, prepare for the fog. Be a low of around 57 tonight and around 65 today, so very pleasant. Saturday, a 40% chance of showers after noon o'clock, and it'll be around 65 degrees. And then Saturday night, about 90% chance of showers, breezy, and around 20 miles an hour wind coming out of the south, so probably a nice little warm wind. And then Sundays, again, another day of potential showers intermittently throughout the day. So looks like the weekend could be a little bit of a wet one. And with opening day looming today, hopefully they'll get those ball games in tomorrow. You just never know. And you got plenty of basketball as well continuing. And I don't think our weather is going to affect the Olympics, so we don't have to.
No. What it will affect, though, both for the coast and specifically something we don't normally pay much attention to, which is the weather in New Orleans. It doesn't matter most of the time. However, Fat Tuesday is next Tuesday. Last weekend of Mardi Gras for the New Orleans area all the way up through my neck of the woods here in southwest Mississippi. Macomb, Summit, Brookhaven, down in this area. We have a chance for some potentially spicy weather. Tomorrow night into Sunday morning is when they're really looking at it coming through, the last forecast I saw. So keep that on your radar. And if it gets really loud, just roll over in the middle of the night tomorrow night and go, yep, Dave said that was going to happen, and go back to sleep. It's the best advice I can give you.
And you were dealing with the Friday the 13th today, so it doesn't happen too terribly often. And Friday the 13th is generally considered unlucky due to a confluence of many different factors, generally speaking, religious and cultural, historical. You had 13 people attending the Last Supper. That was one of the things. The Norse myth around the 13th guest, crazy old Loki, and the 1307 arrest of the Knights Templar. So you had some religious roots, some Norse mythology in there. The number 13, historical events. King Philip of the Fourth of France ordered the arrest of the Knights Templar on October 13th, 1307. And then there's some other cultural things. So just, one of those across several cultures, Friday the 13th has that aura of unluckiness or, bad, if you want to go with that.
It's one of those things that Friday the 13th is considered unlucky because everybody thinks it's unlucky.
If you want it to be, I guess.
Basically. We have 3 Friday the 13th this year. Today, next month, we have another one. Well, and that makes sense. If you have one in February, you're going to have one in March because of 28 days in February. All the days of the week stay on the same numbers. And we will also have a Friday the 13th in November. Okay. Last year, we had one.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to teach me that secret you were just rolling with right there. What was it? If there's 28 days, the month of March, count whatever. I was like, what are you talking? It's like a math class I just took. Well, and I basically did what I did in math. I didn't learn it.
Look at it like this, and this month makes it really easy to do because this month on the calendar is a perfect month. Mm-hmm. It's a complete square. The first was on a Sunday. The 28th is on a Saturday, which means in March, the 1st will be on a Sunday again. So the 13th is on a Friday this month. Next month, the 13th will be on a Friday. That's what I was talking about.
No, I was following you. I was just trying to figure out how you figured that out. Like, I'm not saying
I have no life, Lance. This is not a secret.
Where did you pull this from, man?
I don't hide that information.
No, I want to. You showed me where you learned this. I love learning stuff like that because a shortcut is a shortcut, right? I mean,
yes,
if it works, man. Embrace it.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people look down on little shortcuts, little rules of thumb, and I'm like, boy, you're struggling, aren't you?
Again, if somebody ever tells you they don't do it that way, go the other way.
Struggle for struggle's sake is not a virtue, no matter what some people think.
No, I'd prefer to make it easy and quick than struggle and bang my head against the wall trying to figure something out like you were when you were 12 or 13 and couldn't remember something. Now we just got the Google machine.
Or yesterday when I spent a good minute and a half, 2 minutes trying to remember why I walked into the kitchen. There's a lot of different ways you can struggle.
I was like, I walked in here for something, then I saw the Milo sweet tea and went, that's what I came in here for.
That's right. I was thirsty. Been there, buddy. Been there. Now we're getting going, and we will continue that process when we return on mornings here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Now, mornings with Richard Cross.
What's up? Let's get the show going.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Mornings on Friday morning here on Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community. CommunityBank.net is the handy location where you can find out all you need to know, every last thing. We'll talk more about it later, I'm sure, but I got the ruling yesterday on Trinidad Chambliss.
Well, you always wonder what the appeals process. I saw a couple of things on that, and you hope that if there is no appeal, that could always make it linger around for months. But happy to have Trinidad welcomed back with a judge's permission. Since the NCAA didn't want to do it.
Here's the thing. I haven't seen a lot of people catch this. We have it at SuperTalk Mississippi News. Our coverage of it did mention this. After all of the testimony was over, which was basically from Trinidad's side, the NCAA called no witnesses. And the judge went back to his chambers to deliberate and figure out his ruling. Well, he came back out, and number one, when he came back out, the NCAA attorneys had left.
They were hungry, huh?
They just bailed, and the judge made it very clear he was going to figure out how to charge them with contempt because you don't do that.
Yeah.
But the judge also did his best to make this ruling as appeal-proof as possible. I don't know if you heard this detail. The ruling took him an hour and a half to deliver. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just he's reinstated. No, he went through all the rationale, all the reasoning, all the evidence, the chain of events, everything, and laid it out beautifully. That's going to make it more difficult for the NCAA to come up with a way to appeal.
I'm happy, man. Great job, Judge Whitwell. That's what I like to hear. It doesn't matter how good the hamburgers smell at Handy Andy's. You kind of need to sit there and let the judge do his job before you bail out on a legal proceeding.
Well, that's just a norm in the industry. You don't go, well, I know how he's going to rule. Come on. Yeah. You want to go for tacos? Yeah. Let's go for tacos. And just bail and leave the judge sitting there. You don't do that.
A little high and mighty by the NCAA. I don't think they've ever acted that way before. So this must be a first time for everything type deal.
They're always so humble.
Of course. They love Ole Miss, too. So just ask ask them. Right?
Yes.
Just ask them how much they love Ole Miss.
Mississippi in general. They're big fans.
Well, I'm happy for Trinidad Chambliss. What a great story this past season was. And, you know, it seems that everyone dotted the I's and crossed the T's on his team and on that side of the fence, and not really sure what the NCAA was deliberating so hard there and why they were so upset and had to take their briefcase and go home. But it seemed to be pretty clear-cut to me. And, again, I'm not an attorney, but I did follow this. And it seemed that Fair State, the doctors, everybody seemed to have all the evidence that was necessary to say, yeah, you're due, especially when you got guys getting 7th and 8 years playing ball, you know.
Well, and I'm sorry, there were so many similar cases that have happened where the extra year of eligibility was granted in very similar circumstances. It's really hard to come in and pick one out and go, yeah, but not you.
Yeah, not you, man. You're not we don't want this. And Caleb Sailors did a great job on the article. So if anyone's wanting to look at those specifics, he dropped that out there for us yesterday, and it is extremely comprehensive as all the work our wonderful news team does. They've got a fearless leader in JT, and boy, they put out some great stuff.
They really do. And I will say this, the rest of the SEC and college football have been watching this story very carefully. And with that ruling yesterday, they ratcheted one more notch from, okay, whatever, to uh-oh.
Yeah, they're getting to the point where it's like, why do we need this thing called the NCAA again?
You ever think we'll reach that point for real?
With 60 or so teams, I do, yeah. I think that D3, D2, and maybe a lot of those that can't compete in the NIL era, it may look something like a relegation in soccer where you have the top 60, 80 teams, and then you may have a second tier in there. I don't know how it's going to go, but I do not see how the NCAA can continue running the show for the greatest revenue producers out there. I just don't.
I would almost be willing to say that, well, I'll put it like this. To me, it's a fairly big possibility that the introduction of the NIL was the tipping point to start the failure cascade leading to the eventual diminishing, if not outright, end of the NCAA, because that's one more set of moving pieces put into an already complex piece of machinery. And it's very quickly going to reach the point to where just one group to rule them all, like the One Ring and the Lord of the Rings, is not going to be functional. That's what I see looking at it.
They just remind me of the PBM argument, the pharmacy benefit manager. Maybe at the beginning there was great intent and there was a conduit for savings and all these things, but I don't think that's where we are now if you listen to those practicing and those doing the work. So if you're only going to favor a handful of teams, and let's say the NCAA does that, it's kind of like what the PBMs do, and it really just minimizes the impact of the organization's positive side, I think. And so, again, I think once you get to the point where you're doing more harm than good, it's time to remove that and move on. I think a better structure could be in place, though, pretty quickly. Again, I think Richard Cross and that crew could tell you a lot more with nuts and bolts than what I can, but I don't believe it would take very long for the top 60 to 80 teams to say, hey, this is our ruling body, this is how we're going to do it. And I believe you need some guardrails and you need some direction that the NCAA is just not providing.
Well, and again, in that particular instance, if you had the top 60, 80 teams get together and form their own little club, basically, they could build it on the current situation from scratch to where it would all be worked in and included, whereas the NCAA every couple of years has to bolt another gear onto this machine they've built over the decades, and it eventually reaches a Rube Goldberg level of complexity that's just hilarious.
It really is. It's like, you had this amazing Ferrari, and now you're putting parts for a Yugo on it, and that's where we are. That's the way it feels with the NCAA. It just feels like, at one point maybe they were streamlined and running well, but it just doesn't seem that that's been the case for quite some time.
Another great rule of life. This is a life rules kind of day here on the show. Another great rule of life. Never spend too much time being proud and bragging about the fuzzy dice you hung from the rearview mirror of your Rolls Royce.
Yeah. One of our listeners here, if Chambliss played for Ohio or anywhere else, he would have gotten another year the first time.
He would have gotten two.
Yeah, they'd have gone and said, look, you can play to your 8th year. I have to agree with you on that one. The NCAA lawyers saw the judge drinking coffee out of his Ole Miss cup, and they decided it wasn't worth their time, according to one of our listeners. Hey, maybe so.
I'm not going to argue with that.
Hey, I mean, you got to be who you are in this world. And if you're an Ole Miss fan, don't be bashful.
Well, and what I love about that, don't think for a second that wasn't an intentional choice.
Yeah,
and here's why I say that. Nobody can accuse him of trying to hide any of his affiliations or his support. Nobody can accuse him of trying to put on a front. He's drinking coffee from his Ole Miss cup while he's ruling on this. Everybody that he graduated from Ole Miss, he went to Ole Miss. That was actually a brilliant legal move, because if anybody says, well, he should have disclosed he was sipping from an Ole Miss cup, I'm pretty sure it was disclosed.
Yeah, you knew when Saban had his Coca-Cola up there, that wasn't free, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a little affinity for that. And we had another listener, so with the Chambliss ruling in place, does the NCAA exact its revenge on Ole Miss via the tampering issue? That's a great question. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the path they want to go down with the tampering issue, considering that Ole Miss had quite a few tampered with, and many other schools do. So I think it's a good point. Do you focus your attention on Ole Miss when this is obviously happening all over the country with most of these big 60 and 80 teams we're talking about? So not sure that would actually have a lot of staying power, but it may be some way that they could definitely, show their discontent.
Yeah, I will say this, though. The easiest way to make sure you have a bad day, week, month, year, whatever, is by engaging in selective enforcement.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
You pick out with an obvious motivation to get them back. Pick out just one or two programs and go after them for something many multiple programs has been doing. You're going to get some questions you don't want to have to answer.
Definitely.
Just my thought. We continue on this Friday morning. I'm hoping at any moment now, I'm waiting, eventually the caffeine will kick in, so that I won't say things like cack in again. That would be great. We continue on this Friday morning after this. Keep it here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Seabrook.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back. SuperTalk Mississippi. Mornings on a Friday morning. Dave Hughes here. Just during the break, I go down so many rabbit holes. This popped up. There is a new movie that is out called The Promised Land. It's a Danish movie. Mads Mikkelsen. I don't know if you are familiar with him. Great actor.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well,
he's a good villain, too.
Oh, he's an excellent villain. He is so good as a villain. He played Lecter in the TV show Hannibal. Just to give you a point of reference. He was also a
Bond villain, too.
He was a Bond villain. Mm. He was the main villain in the first Doctor Strange movie.
Yep.
You know, he's had a lot of things. Well, they were having a press event for their new movie, The Promised Land, which is getting rave reviews. And a reporter asked the director and Mads Mikkelsen, who were both sitting up there along with other people from the production, said, why is your new Danish movie, The Promised Land, entirely Nordic? It lacks the black people. It lacks diversity. The director replied, well, first of all, the film takes place in Denmark in the 1750s. You figure it out. And it's getting rave reviews.
Well, I've been doing a deep dive on the history of King Leopold II in the Congo. So as you start mentioning Denmark and Belgium and those areas, you know. So yeah, I may have to go do a little Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, because I'm a fan. He's a great actor.
He really is.
He really is. Now, on this day in 2002, and this may hit home for some folks here in Mississippi, the Scottish Parliament passed a bill called the Protection of Wild Mammals Bills. It made it illegal to hunt wild mammals with dogs, effectively outlawing fox hunting in Scotland. They did that back in 2002. So, you know, with the dog bill and all that stuff going on, I figured that was apropos. I don't. What other mammals do they have in Scotland?
I don't know.
And cats and foxes.
Really big potato weevils? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you got the American Werewolf in London. I know that because David Naughton played that. He's 75 years old today.
Yeah, but that was London.
That's London.
We're talking about Scotland.
But it looked like he came out of the Highlands. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
From the movie, they weren't like walking in London. You know, they were out in the moors or something.
I wonder why they put that in place. Was it some of the same arguments that we hear here about dog hunting?
I guess, yeah. I didn't go too deep into it, but apparently it was, you know, jumping fences and messing with people's lands and herds and things of that nature. I'm sure the dogs are getting a hold of some sheep, and it ended up too well for the cardigans. So, I think that was more of a similar kind of issues maybe that we're having here.
Not sure what sweaters have to do with anything, but okay.
Well, you got the sheep, man. Don't they make sheep out of wool? I mean, wool out of, they come from the sheep and then the sweaters. And I was just trying to one and through that. But
I'm not the only one that's praying for the caffeine to kick in. I see that now.
Well, Jerry Springer, you know, this was his birthday today. Well, he died in 2023, but he'd been 82 years old. Very much a pioneer in the crazy part of television.
And former mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah, on top of that, right, was a mayor. You also have Stockard Channing and Kim Novak. Birthdays, Mina Savari, her birthday's today. Let's see, Peter Gabriel, one of my faves. Love him, 76 years old. Sledgehammer, In Your Eyes. You got Peter Hook, the New Order bassist. Henry Rollins, of course, the black frontman in the Henry Rollins band. Had a little run in there in, what was it, the 90s?
Yeah, it was late 90s,
Mother,
I would say.
Was that Danzig? Was Mother Danzig? Or
I think Mother was Danzig.
Yes, Danzig, yeah. I was jamming to that the other day, and I couldn't decide. I said, that Rollins or Danzig? Chuck Yeager, he died in 2020 at age 103. He was the first pilot to break the sound barrier, and The Right Stuff, what a great movie. You know, his part in it, right there at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Wasn't he, what's the guy's name? Goodness, I can't believe I just drew a blank there on the actor that played his part, because Barbara Hershey played the opposite of him, right?
I don't remember either. Don't feel bad.
Sam Shepard, yes.
That's it,
It came to me. Thank you. Finally, in 1795, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill opened its doors to students, thereby claiming they're the country's oldest public university in the United States. They're not the only one that makes that claim, though, as the University of Georgia and the College of William and Mary also say they're the first. Each has distinct basis for the claims. In 1866, Jesse James, he held up his first bank, stealing $15,000 from the Clay County Savings Association in Liberty, Missouri. And everybody probably remembers this, especially with the craziness that's happened lately. But today in 1935, Bruno Hauptmann was found guilty in the kidnapping and murder of Charles Lindbergh Jr., a.k.a. the Lindbergh baby. Hauptmann was executed the following April on the 3rd, and he maintained his innocence until the bitter end. Perhaps he was. Hauptmann's case is included in the 1922 book, In Spite of Innocence, and there's been a bunch of books written about that. But what a fascinating time that was, too, dealing with a celebrity and just a crazy thing. And again, he always maintained his innocence to the very, very end there. You also, on this day in 2000, the final, I should say, Peanut strip ran after Charles Schultz had passed in his sleep in California at the age of 77. They basically said, we're going to take the show and shut her down. You know, can't go on with the show without the man. So there's a few things that happened on this day. And then in 1977, the 1977 movie Star Wars, with the help of Special Edition, released E.T., the Extraterrestrial. You remember E.T.?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. That movie was amazing. I thought as a kid seeing that one. Well, you had the Reese's Pieces, too. I mean,
well, you know why
how many they sold after that?
A bunch. And you know why they had Reese's Pieces? They couldn't get the deal with M&M's.
Well, Reese's Pieces, that's a good second there. I mean, I actually kind of like Reese's Pieces more than M&M's. I don't know about you. Are you a Pieces guy or an M&M's guy?
I like them both. I'm more of an M&M's guy, though, I think.
Yeah, I like the peanut M&M's.
I'll put it like this, just the regular plain M&M's. Do you taste a difference in the colors?
I mean, mentally, the green ones taste like a Grand Slam.
Is it because the animated M&M is the sexy one?
I guess so.
Okay.
As a baseball player, though, that was you always would go to the concession stand between the doubleheader and get a bag of M&Ms and pick the green ones out and eat them first, hoping that allowed you to hit a home run in the next game. And it worked for me a lot. So I'm very partial to the green ones. They taste like home runs. I'm
going to tell you a little piece of trivia you might or might not want to know. I am a big enough fan of regular plain M&Ms that my wife orders them in the 5-pound canister with the screw on top, and it just sits on my desk at home.
You just eat one at a time, or is it like handful oriented?
I eat 2 or 3 at a time over the course of about 5 hours, and it's pretty much just a continuous chain going back and forth from the jar to my mouth to the point where it's a 5-pound bucket. And about every other month, she has to order another one.
Nothing wrong with that, man. That's good stuff.
It is
classic. There, we got
that. By the way, one of the major contributing factors to my diabetes. But go ahead.
No, I was just saying there'll be a lot sold this weekend with 6 baseball games between Ole Miss and State. You got a 3 down in Hattiesburg as they kick off the season. Ole Miss has Nevada today at 4, and then again at 1:30 tomorrow and 1:30 on Sunday. Mississippi State is going to have Hofstra. They have them at 4 today, 1 tomorrow, and 1 on Sunday. And then Southern Miss, they have UC Santa Barbara. They're coming in. They're playing today at 4 o'clock, 12 o'clock tomorrow, 1 p.m. on Sunday. Delta State, they're going to have Harding University, but they'll travel up to Millington to USA Stadium. It says it's postponed until Monday, or that whole set of games was postponed. I'm sorry, I'm looking at something. Yeah, those were postponed. So there'll be Lee University this weekend in Cleveland, Tennessee. I'm sorry. And that's 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 4 o'clock if you're interested in catching the Delta State Statesmen against Lee University in Tennessee. And again, I don't know when they're going to make up that Harding weekend last weekend. And then William
You
Carey,
have to wonder if they will.
Yeah, you never know on those things. And William Carey has already played, it seems like a month of baseball. They started back in January the 29th. And,
wow.
They actually have had full contact, so to speak, for a month, it seems. But they'll have IU Kokomo. Will be coming in this weekend. Several other teams: Missouri Baptist, Indiana University, IU Kokomo, and then it looks like a tournament they'll be hosting through Saturday, and so that'll be a fun one too. Some William Carey off to a start of 5-4 right now, but they've logged quite a few games and have a busy weekend as well.
I can't be the only person that has this problem. Every time you say Kokomo, every time I'm on Highway 98 going towards Hattiesburg and I pass by the sign says you can turn here to go to Kokomo, Mississippi, I immediately have the Beach Boys song go through my head.
I'm thinking Tom Cruise and Cocktail.
Yes, every time. Aruba.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day. All on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Super Talk Mississippi mornings, and it's money time with the Mississippi Lottery. A lot of good stuff, specifically a lot of big stacks of cash waiting for a lot of people. A lot of people can include you, but again, you have to buy a ticket. Lotto America, jackpot for tomorrow night's drawing, up to $15.45 million in estimated dollars. Powerball, estimated jackpot for tomorrow night, $146 million. We'll take that. Mega Millions, estimated jackpot for tonight's drawing, $385 million. Mississippi Match 5, the Tolbert game, up to $260,000. It's due. It really is due because you get winners in that game on a very regular basis, and it could be yours. Now, very important note we got to put out. You know, when you win, you don't have to immediately rush down and cash in your ticket, but you do have a time limit. And if that time limit expires, you just flushed money down the toilet, basically. That's yours already. There are 2 winning tickets. Each one won $2 million. So $4 million worth of winnings from 2 tickets. A $2 million Mega Millions ticket purchased in Moss Point at the Pilot Travel Center. They've got 9 days left to claim it, and $2 million just goes away if they don't claim it.
Yeah, sad day, huh?
If you have ever been through Moss Point, if you have ever stopped and bought a ticket in Moss Point, will you please go find them all and double check them? Also, another $2 million Powerball ticket. This one was sold in Coldwater at Mike's Food and Gas. Another $2 million winner. That one has 10 days left to claim it before it expires, and you go from having $2 million in your hand to having nothing but a bookmark. Because once it expires, that ticket's worthless.
Yeah, you get that laminated.
This, to me, would be a tragedy. If you have one of those 2 tickets and you don't get in there in the next week and a half and claim your money, $2 million each, that would be a tragedy. Now, of course, there's always, in some cases, they lost the ticket or it got thrown away or the dog ate it. There's a million different reasons why it can go unclaimed, but sometimes we hear stories of people who find a ticket and realize it was a winner like a year after the time limit has expired. I can't imagine a worse feeling than that. So don't let it be you. Double check your tickets. If you bought a ticket in Moss Point, if you bought a ticket in Coldwater a few months back, you may be a millionaire and not even know it. Go double check them. All of them. Pester your friends. If you're the one that reminds them and saves them $2 million, they might slide you a little something.
Hey, if you had that ticket and you found it a year later, would you admit to anyone you did that, or would you use that as a red badge of courage? I mean, have it laminated and keep it in your wallet or whatever.
In the state of Mississippi, the way the laws are structured, you are allowed to remain anonymous. No one's going to ever know I won the lottery.
But if you found the ticket a year later is what I'm saying, and you knew the ticket was bad.
Oh, yeah, no. Nobody would ever find out. I would go home every day and just cry myself to sleep at like 3 p.m.
What would you do with the ticket? Would you keep it or would you burn it in a funeral pyre?
I don't know. I would have to think about that one. I would probably use it most days to just sit and scowl at, even though it would be my fault. So don't let that be you, please. I had several winners. Cash 4 had a $2,600 winner, a $2,700 winner, $2,600 from Heidelberg, $2,700 in Van Cleve. Cash Pop, $1,000 to a Lauderdale man. A Fulton man won $1,250 on Cash Pop. Your game, the match 5, a Salas man won $800. Bought it in Kosciuszko. Hattiesburg woman won $800 on a Mega Millions ticket. Woman in Leland won $1,000 on a Powerball ticket. And
home of Kermit the Frog there.
Yes. It's not easy spending green. Couple of scratch-off winners. Sorry, I don't even know where that came from. Couple of scratch-off winners. The $100 million extravaganza, $20 ticket. Woman from Augusta, Georgia was in Mississippi, dropped a 20 on a ticket, won $1,000 in McGee. Not bad. And the new $30 Millionaire Maker winner, Meridian Man's not a millionaire, but he's got $50,000 he didn't have before. Stop by, take your chances, get your ticket. You could be a winner, and please, for crying out loud, go clean out the console in your car and make sure you don't have $2 million laying there. You've got 9 and 10 days, respectively, to claim it. Coming up next, we've got news from Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News, and then hour number 2 of mornings on this Friday morning. Keep it here.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. This hour of mornings, though, brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits you and your business. You can call today at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com for more. In the next segment, we'll be joined by my buddy, the owner and operator of Darkhorse Press. Therese Apel is going to join us because I don't know if you've noticed this, Lance. There is a small amount of coverage around the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
Oh, yeah. Goodness.
It's been mentioned once or twice. It is wall to wall. I have never seen this much coverage with this little information.
That's the truth. It just, from the very beginning, it seemed like they were on top of it out of the gate, and then now it's seemingly gone in a different direction with, I don't want to be rude and say, incompetent. I don't know if that's the word, but definitely it seems like they're chasing tails right now.
There's a lot of weird stuff surrounding this case.
There is, man.
A lot of things that are not easily explainable. Now, to be fair, there is no such thing as a standard kidnapping case. Let's just be totally upfront and fair about that. It's not like there's a rule book that's followed when you do these kind of things. Any type of crime, everyone is individual and different. That's why we've got Therese coming in, because she has covered some very high-profile criminal cases in her career. She's got some boots-on-the-ground experience with this kind of thing. I want to get her perspective on it, because it just... I hate to say this, at this point, the whole story is kind of starting to smell funny.
Well, there's no one better to get an opinion from than Therese. She is top-notch. If you are not following Darkhorse Press, what a great crime reporter. Like you said, boots on the ground, great experience, and a good person, too. You know, she's a horse lover. And a horse ride, I love Therese. She's great. We've had her on so many times, and her work stands alone. It's great. It is just good stuff, man.
You can find out what we're talking about at darkhorsepressnow.com.
I got
all together.
I got it on every app you can get. It's
Yeah.
like SuperTalk News and Darkhorse Press. If you need stuff, that's where you get it.
She does a great job. So we'll be talking to her in the next segment because, again, I don't know.
I'm anxious to hear her perspective, too, given that her depth of knowledge into these types of investigations, how they go, dealing with law, multiple agencies, kidnapping. As you said, there's no normal one. We just mentioned the Bruno Hauptmann and the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. And so, I mean, these things are just always just outrageously complex.
Yes.
And any misstep is magnified exponentially, it seems.
Well, and that's I get the feeling that's what we got going on here, but we'll get into that with Therese in the next segment. If she still joins us, if she's listening now, she may be going, "No, I'm not waiting it." No, she will. That's one of the gutsiest human beings you'll ever care to meet. One thing I want to address, because it's been an interesting little unfolding of narrative here. As you know, Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced that she and the Coalition Against Domestic Violence were partnering with Ring to hand out 1,000 Ring camera devices with a subscription to victims of domestic violence. Now, that is a huge advancement because those are the people that live in fear of the wrong person knocking on their door. And it's a very real threat. But then the Super Bowl commercial came out with the Ring cameras, and they immediately started getting blasted because they had partnered with a company called Flock. That company was putting functionality into the Ring cameras to where you could activate a feature called Search Party, and all the opted-in cameras in your area would activate and start scanning and seeing what they could see, what they could find. They paid $8 to $10 million for a Super Bowl commercial to brag about this, and then everyone immediately unloaded them and said, "This is Orwellian by definition. This is horrible." Here's the thing, couple of things. Number one, a victim of domestic violence doesn't care. They are interested in one thing, and that's feeling safe. Some of them for the first time in a long time, so it's still a fantastic achievement from the Attorney General's office. But here is the size of the blowback that the Ring cameras got from that Super Bowl commercial and the announcement. They have now terminated their partnership with Flock Safety. That came out late yesterday. That's gone. That's done. They're like, okay, fair play. You said this is bad. We looked at it again, and yeah, it's kind of bad. So they did away with that. Flock, by the way, in case you're curious who that is as a company, they operate a network of automated license plate readers around the country. They're the ones that do the traffic cameras. So they were partnering until it became very clear that that was a bad move. So that has now gone away. This, and I want to make sure we make this perfectly abundantly clear, this whole debacle with Flock and the search party and everything has zero impact and in no way reflects on the deal from the Attorney General's office. Attorney General Lynn Fitch did a good thing for people who haven't had a lot of good things done for them. Let's just call it what it is. So it was a good thing, great move on their part, but I just wanted to pass that along because there has been some discussion, there's been a lot of discussion this week about that search party app. Well, that's going away now. It took, week and a half, but I will say $8 to $10 million is an expensive way to find out you've got a bad idea.
Yeah.
Does no one have, I don't know, focus groups? Does no one have any kind of testing of ideas before they launch millions of dollars into it?
A lot of it's an echo chamber, I would imagine.
It
sounds like a great idea. Let's do it.
Well, we can get into this later because this is infecting a lot of companies, especially in the gaming industry. I got stories I can tell you there. It's the tag that has been given to it is toxic positivity. Mm-hmm. Everybody's positive. We've got a winner here. And nobody has the guts to say it stinks.
Yeah, that's always bad. Working in the world of money for a long time, anytime everybody's on the same page with everything, it should make you feel a little queasy and uneasy. Can't tell you how many junkets and outings and places I've been where they put you on the plane and put you up in a nice spot, and you got to go sit through 3 days of financial experts telling you how great this investment's going to be, and you're the only person that raises your hand and says, "What about this?" And then they're basically showing you out the door.
Yeah.
So I've been there many times.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm the person that will be like, "No, that doesn't make sense," in front of 500 people. And then, you get some looks that are not, generally smiles. But you can't be in an echo chamber, not with money.
A lot of people miss out on the connection between a yes man and the phrase, "oh man."
Oh man.
Yeah, you wind up at "oh man" if you surround yourself with nothing but yes men.
Well, and you live by failure too. I mean, you don't always learn by success. I learned by the failures and the harm that it caused others by not being right. Even doing all the due diligence you can possibly do in that world, sometimes you're going to be wrong. And when you are, it hurts people. And you live with that, and you got to deal with that every day. And it made me a much more cautious, much more wary person, and asking those questions, you learn. You got to ask the tough questions. And again, when everybody says everything's great, you got to run. Look for your wallet.
Run. Put one hand on your wallet and the other one on your car keys because they're trying to get something. Well, the problem that I see here, making mistakes is part of being a human being, okay? We all goof. Everybody goofs every so often. But if you don't learn from those mistakes, and you get the feeling that corporate America in general, and specifically in this case, Amazon, which owns the Ring cameras, if they don't learn something from what at a minimum is an $8 to $10 million mistake, well, that's not a good sign. So hopefully they'll learn something and they'll actually pay attention to potential feedback next time somebody comes up with a great idea like, "Hey, let's turn our cameras into a network of surveillance tools. That'll be great."
Well, I doubt any of the CEOs and the bigwigs are going to take a pay cut for burning $13 million or whatever.
No, they won't, which, again, part of the problem. When we come back, all of this is a moot point because the Guthrie case, Therese Apel is going to solve all of that for us from Darkhorse Press, and she will continue doing the job she always does as she joins us when we come back here on SuperTalk.
From the Venable Glass.
Good morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right.
Welcome to
Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, SuperTalk Mississippi Mornings. And joining us now, if you'd like to see some fantastic samples of her work, you can go to darkhorsepressnow.com and read it for yourself. She is the leader of Darkhorse Press, the lovely and talented and highly skilled Therese Apel. How you doing this morning, Therese?
I'm good. How are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic.
It's been a minute.
I know. I was about to say we haven't talked in a while.
It has been a while.
One of these days we're going to be in the same place at the same time. We'll have to go grab lunch.
Right. I just want our listeners to know that our biggest, best work together was the creepy clown back in Macomb years ago.
Yes.
So
that's where we first met. She called me and said, "Would you do an interview?" I said, "Well, I got nothing booked for the next hour. Sure.
Right.
Why not?"
Right. It was great.
And then it just all went downhill from there. And in that case, I'm talking about planet Earth right now, I think.
That's for sure.
Well, I'm sure, knowing you, we've gotten 12 days now of nonstop coverage on the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, and I'm sure you've got that whole case solved at this point, right?
I can't say that I do. I think they're getting a lot closer, and I feel like we've got somebody who's definitely not like a pro at this. So I think that more than likely, my guess is that authorities have someone in mind, but you have to be so careful with a case like this. One thing, as everybody demands for more and more information, what they don't realize is that, you know, they're mad at the sheriff in Pima County because they think he messed it up or whatever. But how many high-profile money ransom cases can you think of in modern times? And you can't. And so this isn't something that most jurisdictions have ever dealt with, especially not on this level.
Well, exactly. And that to me is part of the problem. I started out and mentioned that we've had 12 nonstop days of wall-to-wall continuous coverage from every news outlet. And there's not really much that can be shared, and you reach the point where you're trying desperately to make something out of nothing. Do you think that hurts everything in general, journalism and the case?
Absolutely. And I've said this for a long time, that sometimes the public eye on a case, it puts an undue stress on it, but it informs the suspect because he can watch the news and see what's happened lately. You know, there's so many pieces of it that aren't necessarily great for policing. And I say this knowing that I'm the one that's up in their face a lot of times. I mean, I've been on scenes where people have confessed to me and that suddenly made me a part of the story. It's not always ideal. However, in this case, what you see especially is, police need to be able to mess up in an investigation. That's how you rule out suspects. You know, there are pieces of every investigation that you have to try and then say, no, that's not it. In most cases. I mean, there are open and shuts, but on a whodunit like this, you know, you've got that going on. I think that we live in a world that because there are podcasts and there are crime shows and there are whole networks dedicated to all the information on a case that happened 25 years ago, people believe that they are owed every detail. And so, I mean, that feeds the networks. You can run 24-hour coverage on something and advertisers will pay you. But unfortunately, what is happening to boots on the ground is that it is really complicating what they are working with.
Well, exactly, because, I think part of the problem, too, it comes out of Hollywood because you watch an episode of CSI or Special Victims Unit or any of the shows, and a crime from being committed to being completely solved and tied up in a nice bow takes 48 minutes plus time for station ID. That's not the real world.
Mm-mm. No. And I think that has poisoned what people believe about the police. All this talk about these jurisdictions not getting along, allegedly the sheriff is withholding information from FBI. Everything that I'm hearing from journalists that are connected out there is that that's not real. Their sources in the FBI, their sources with the sheriff's department say that's just not what the case is. But it makes a great story, doesn't it? You know, I mean, it makes people go, ooh, why not? It makes them feel clever if they think they can solve the case before the authorities do. So as far as entertainment goes, that's what they've turned it into. But unfortunately, this shouldn't be entertainment. This is somebody's 84-year-old mother who's missing. And just because Savannah Guthrie is high profile doesn't mean that her life should be treated any differently than the rest of ours in our hearts. I mean, yeah, I realize you're a public figure. There's that. But we're gawking at this instead of wondering, oh my gosh, how would it feel if that was my mom?
Well, it's sensationalist journalism at its best, and I'm talking about the majority of the coverage. I'm not talking about just TMZ. I would love for someone to sit down and explain to me how TMZ became an integral part of this entire case, but there we are. But it just seems like everything is being sensationalized to such an extent that it's kind of trivializing it a bit, isn't it?
It feels like that. When you say TMZ is involved in anything, I roll my eyes. I feel like at this point, the sensationalism, I mean, yes, should we rally like this to help find a missing 84-year-old lady who has been apparently taken? yeah, absolutely, we should be doing this. Sensationalism comes in when it's, we have to know every detail of every moment of everything. You've got people walking up on the porch, journalists filming the crime scene. Now, granted, the police did release it early. So, you could go up to the door. It is private property, but anyone can walk up and knock on a door or whatever like that. So you have a lot at play here it's feeding our need for constant information. And I think in a world right now where everyone's fighting about all the political things, this is something that people feel better being obsessed with because they think they can help if they can solve it.
Well, but the thing is, it took practically zero time for politics to be injected into this story.
Exactly right.
Because everything, we could have an announcement of a new flavor of ice cream this afternoon, and it's going to be a political firestorm by tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's also not helping. Mm-hmm. There are, and I know a lot of people don't understand this and are not going to believe it when I say this, there are some things in this world that aren't political.
Right. Right, and I think something like this, it's absolutely not. I mean, I don't know how you tie politics to this until a politician injects themselves. And to me, that's just a crying shame. Leave that alone. Do something else with your politics. Don't bring it into something like this.
Well, exactly. And, I started to say eventually we will know what happened. You can't really make that guarantee, though, because, we have examples all throughout history where sometimes you don't get that neat resolution to a story.
Well, we hope that we will. When you look at this perpetrator that we've seen on camera, he does not seem to be someone who, first of all, seems to be a pro at this. Even you look at the gun and the holster he's carrying and the way he's carrying it and whatnot, it implies that, A, he's not somebody who carries a gun regularly. So he's probably not a hardened criminal. He's probably not a hitman or somebody who's been sent in. You look at the way he walks up to the house. And there's a place where you see a light flash at the ground. He looks at the ground and the mouth light flashes is what they're calling it, but it's just a light that he's carrying in his mouth. And it's almost like he knows there's a step there. So he's flashing the light to see it because we can't tell how dark it is in there, but there are no lights in that neighborhood because it's close to an astronomy project that the local university does. So you see him look down. He knows there's a step coming. He steps up. He's pretty relaxed in that. So what you assume is this is somebody who is not a professional and potentially knows that house. So now that they've asked all the neighbors to look at their Ring cameras and their surveillance from January 1st up until, February, it makes you believe that the cops know one way or the other. He's been in the neighborhood. He knows the house. That's what they're looking for on these cameras. So we hope that all of that points to a resolution sooner than later.
A lot of times people don't realize that fact that at this point it's still a supposition, but I'm going to call it a fact because it's easier to say, and I'm having problems with my mouth today.
I had that yesterday.
Yeah, but that fact that he seems to be an amateur and familiar with that house and familiar with that neighborhood, that might not break the case, but that might lead to the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing that breaks the case. A lot of people don't really understand the investigative process.
Well, and you look at, so Brian Enton is an investigative journalist that's out there, and he did a video yesterday that showed just a kind of a time lapse of driving into the neighborhood where the house is. And it's all windy. There's twists and turns. Like, you have to know where you're going to even get into here. This isn't where somebody just stopped on the side of the road, broke in and was like, oh, there's an old lady here, I'm going to take her. This is definitely, you can't look at this crime and say that this is not, somebody who knows what they're doing, not maybe professionally, but knows where he's going and knows the layout.
I'm going to be honest, from the surveillance video that they released, this dude's goofy.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't carry your gun like that. That's the wrong place to put your gun.
On the outside of your pants, on your belt buckle. If you go to sit down, that's not in a good place.
Nope. You can't drive like that.
Not for long. you hit one bump too many and you get a whole different set of problems. That's all right. Of a sudden. We're talking with Therese Apel from Darkhorse Press. Go to darkhorsepressnow.com and catch up on all of her work. She does a great job. Can you stick around through the break?
Absolutely.
From the Seabrook.
This segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Oh, great bumper music, Lance.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We have the journalistic rebel herself in here, Therese Apel from Darkhorse Press, and about Horse Girl. How are the horses?
Oh, Bear is good. He's my horse, and he lives out there with a bunch of other horses, and last I checked, they're all doing really good. He's fat. He's a rescue, so for him to be fat is a big deal.
You know, when you have a rescue anything, that's one of the first goals is to get them round.
Get them fat.
Get them nice and plump.
Make them happy,
Yeah, because they've been through hard times and they need all the attention they can get. We kind of nibbled around the edges of this in the last second, but I want to get your take on something because you're very good at this, and that's journalistic objectivity. Mm-hmm. It's feels like it's going extinct. Am I just imagining things?
You're not imagining things. I think as we see and I realize as I say this, my colleagues everywhere will cringe, but as we see kind of the downfall rather of traditional journalism, people are scrambling to figure out what it's supposed to look like now. It's funny, when I started Darkhorse Press, I would explain to people like, well, it's journalism, but like we're not trying to tell you anything but what the facts are, so you can decide how you feel about it. And I actually had people be like, what a great idea. And I'm like, that's journalism 101, man. Like that's not supposed to be like novel. But I think even in today's world, we have media outlets that believe that they're doing it objectively, but the world is not set up anymore for objectivity to sell. First of all, you have influencers out there making six figures just being mad, just yelling about things, and on occasion saying breaking news or whatever. Then you have the fact that, again, we're talking about this 24-hour news cycle. It's hard to keep everything objective when you're talking all the time. So I think when it comes down to it, we've got to decide as a society what we want from our journalism, because I also believe that in politics, sometimes from both sides, we're seeing politicians aren't necessarily fond of objective journalism all the time either. Because you can't say, oh, look, that's spin if it's just facts. I mean, you can say it, but when the facts speak for themselves, then the truth can hurt you.
We have lost, to me anyway, this is me talking here, we have lost all sense of nuance. Yeah. Nothing is all good. Nothing is all bad. That's not the way the world works. We live in a perpetual state of grayness. Yeah. And we seem to be building our entire culture around ignoring that fact and making sure we polarize everything. That's not healthy for a society, I don't think.
Well, and not only is it, we're polarizing everything. We would rather, so we choose outrage over things that, may or may not matter, over looking things that do matter in the face in so many cases. And when we're told the truth in a lot of cases about things, the way the world is, the way politics are, and the way we've been programmed now, because you can look up your opinion anywhere and you have this whole bank of people who agree with you. So we believe that we're the only ones with the truth anymore. As individuals in this society. So what is the truth anymore? Yes, I believe there is one ultimate truth. And the problem is that people don't trust the media anymore. They don't trust police all the time. They don't trust their politicians. So truth becomes what they want it to be. And that really erodes at the ability of any of those things, of the journalist, of the police, of the government to do their job sometimes.
Do you ever catch any blowback because you're not opinionated enough at Darkhorse Press?
So I was told a few years ago that if I would just throw some shenanigans in there, I'd make more money. I think starting a business by myself, not knowing what I was getting into, I thought I could do what everybody's always praised me for, hey, I love it that you're honest. I love it that you tell the truth and you're unbiased. I thought that would make money. And the problem is it does not. So even people who are making just tons of money, just making people angry, will tell me, hey, I respect what you're doing. And everybody respects it, but nobody pays it. So, yeah, the blowback comes out financial.
I can see that. I can understand that perfectly because we live in an outrage economy. Everyone is supposed to be mad 24 mad. Well, one caveat there: mad and or scared.
Yeah,
24/7.
And we grease the squeaky wheel. So the thing is, if you're making the most noise in this business, in whatever that looks like, you're the one that's going to get the clicks, which now pay. You're the one that's going to get the advertisers because of the clicks. And that said, I mean, there's no reason to feel sorry for ourselves if we are the ones that are trying to do it right. Because to me, you know, you look at the prophets of the Bible times, they were essentially what reporters are supposed to be now, holding truth to power, you know, telling the stories that need to be told, even when they just stink, you know. And so I feel like there's an avenue for it. I don't know what it looks like all the time, and a lot of times it is hard. But I think that's what we're here to do.
Well, and I know you know this. I can tell you this from personal experience. When you speak truth to power, power gets really cranky.
Oh, they do.
Boy, do they just really go off the rails sometimes about it.
Yeah, I've been disinvited to press conferences because they knew that I wouldn't toe the line. I've been chewed out a lot. That's not even new anymore. But I think, you know, just even to be able to ask an honest question about something and have a real answer anymore sometimes can be quite an accomplishment, you know.
I'm not even going to put you on the spot and ask you, how do we fix this? I'm not even sure it's fixable within a generation's time. This is a cultural setting right now, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Well, my dad used to always tell me that history swings back and forth. History is a pendulum. So you look at, you know, of course, the Republicans are in power, the Democrats are in power. That goes back and forth. You look at the way society reacts to things. You look at morality. It all just kind of comes and goes. And I believe that there will be a day that somebody's going to look at some honest journalist doing it over there, and they're going to be like, that's what we want. That's so new. Who thought that up? And then everybody's going to start following suit that way. But right now we're in a place where I think independent journalists are more important than ever. On the other hand, independent quote-unquote journalists are hurting us more than ever. So there's such a fine line. The information age has made it to where everything is gray. Everything's blurry, you know.
Well, to me, the chain of events for this problem that has manifested is that traditional media, national media, became more and more sensationalist. People came in and started saying the things that they wouldn't say on traditional media and started making money independently. But then they realized, hey, the louder I scream and the weirder the face and the YouTube thumbnail, the more money I make. And then they just became almost the other side of the coin to the same problem that we had, and now we're right back where we were. We basically have Therese Apel and a bunch of other people messing around out there. That's the way I look at it, because I'm sorry, you're a rare breed at this point. You really are.
Thank you.
And I say that, it may not be the compliment you think, though, because basically I'm bragging on the fact that you didn't fall asleep during the first week of your first journalism class where a lot of this stuff was taught.
Well, and I can say that part of that is because I had a great mentor when I started off, a guy named Jim Lambert that ran the Copiah County Courier. And I was 15 years old, so I was very moldable. And he used to say things like, if somebody's mad at you, it means that you're doing your job. You know, and there were just little things that, like, at age 15, they took. And I do have to kind of throw one out for some of my colleagues. There are still a lot of local journalists trying to make it work, trying to do it right. Sometimes the constraints of deadlines in a 24-hour cycle mean that you only get to tell half the story, which is the reason that I'm no longer in TV. You know, I tried that out, and it just didn't give me the opportunity to tell complete stories, which I feel like is important for objective journalism. And that was no fault of my own or of theirs. It's objectivity in some cases is a casualty of the times. So that would be back to 24 hours. What are we going to put on the news?
Yeah, we got to have something to talk about, which has led us, as we bring this conversation full circle, as we're running out of time here, back to the Nancy Guthrie case.
Yeah.
We could get, for the last 2 weeks, we could have gotten 3 minutes a day every day, and that would have been more than enough for the amount of information being given, but we tend to take everything and kind of fluff it up. To fill the time, and that's, to me, hurting journalism.
I think so too, and the fact is, it lends itself to everyone thinking that they are a detective also. And so with the Jessica Chambers case, for instance, we had so much feedback from people all over the country who would send bad leads, and you have to investigate them all. Having that audience out there that is interacting consistently because of these things we're talking about can be detrimental.
Therese Apel, go to Darkhorse Press now, right now. Click a link. Click a bunch of links. Click all the links several times each. Yeah. It'll be fine. Every one counts. I can't let you get out of here without one final question on the Guthrie case, because I do know your skill level. I do know your ability. So, Therese, who did it?
Oh, gosh. Well, I can't guess. I have theories, but I don't want to be the person that throws something out there. But it is somebody that knew about that neighborhood for sure. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we may have the same theories, but I'm not talking about mine either. Therese Apel, thank you.
From the Venable Glass.
Get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Super Talk, Mississippi mornings. Beautiful day. Don Lemon's getting arraigned today.
Oh, good. Yeah.
He and the other 4 that were arrested for stomping into the church and going, I'm just reporting. No, you weren't. You were being a jerk. But then again, that's how he makes his living. So that should surprise absolutely none of us, I think. You can make your living in many ways, but when you take it to that degree. Yes, I'm sorry. You don't go stomping into a church in the middle of a service and start carrying on anything, really.
Well, I would say you probably don't get to bust into a church at any time unless you're invited. It's kind of the house of God, like somebody else's home would be to them. You don't just kick the door in and go in there and start, messing with folks while they're having dinner.
No.
Interviewing them and poking the bear. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, have some decency. Wait. Maybe outside?
Yes, but there are some people. There is an entire group of human beings on the planet. Most of them, I think, in America, it feels like anyway, although that could just be selection bias based on, the coverage that we get, that believe they should be able to kick your door in, stomp in there, stand over your dinner table and preach to you. Mm-hmm. And try to shame you. They firmly believe that's the way it should be. Did you hear about Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson?
They still have a mayor. Good.
Yeah, well, they still have a mayor, but I'm trying to think of a nice way to put it. In my opinion, yeah, she's a mayor. She's also an idiot. Let me explain why I say that. In a press conference, said she's going to put laws together, get these on the books in Seattle, that we can't just allow these big grocery store chains to close a location when they want to. They should be forced to keep a non-profitable, low-performing location open.
Yeah, you force them to do that. That'll work well.
Yeah, it's going to be great. She wants to ban the closing of locations by grocery store chains in Seattle, Washington. I'm going to be interested to watch and see. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of companies that say, well, you know what, before you get that in place, we're out.
Yeah, well, didn't the affable socialist Mondami, didn't he propose something very similar to that?
Yeah.
And now they got garbage stacked up, all over the place, and rats the size of cats.
And I would like to point out, I talked to a friend of mine that lives in New York City just day before yesterday. The buses are still not free.
Mm-hmm.
So just hold your breath for that.
Well, and nothing ever is it?
No. To be fair, he's only had a month and a half.
Yeah.
When do we start mocking him? About 6 months ago was the appropriate time, but the second best time is now. And that's where we're at. We'll see how he goes, but it's the amount of illogic that's aggravating with these kind of extreme mindsets. Extremism needs to go away in all directions. Because again, as I was talking with Therese, we live in a world of grays. And to convince yourself otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that, if you ask me. I got a story. We'll have time for it maybe at 8:30. Because coming up after the break here, we've got Fox News and SuperTalk Mississippi News. And then Jim Leggette will join us. Always enjoy talking to Jim. Absolutely nothing going on in the financial world, so I don't know what
we'll
in
Mississippi State baseball either. Yeah, I mean,
it's slow time of year, so we'll dig and try to come up with something to talk with Jim about.
Hey, whatever happened to good television? And that's why I played that Miami Vice song. I was reading, because I thought Therese may come back for another segment. I wanted it to be ready. But as you read the description, I would watch this today if somebody could actually put something like this on television. But stubble-faced detective Crockett lived in a sailboat guarded by his alligator Elvis. His partner Tubbs was a black New York cop looking for his brother's killer. Together they took on the Florida drug world. The show influenced men's fashion toward Italio casual and interior decor toward the Memphis look. Very trendy music and unusual guest performers.
You know what the reason that was so popular was?
Cocaine.
It was original.
Yeah.
All we get is reboots, retreads, redesigns, and redoing the same thing over and over and over from a creatively bankrupt Hollywood. They just announced the actor David Boreanaz has signed on to star in the reboot of the Rockford Files.
Yeah, well, that's why I kind of went. You're talking about originality in the echo chamber and just a bunch of yes men. Seems like there are a bunch of those in entertainment these days.
That's all it is. We can get into that later, too, if you want to, because I can go for a while on that. This hour of mornings brought to you by MWG Employer Services. You can call them today at 601-206-7966 or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Jim Leggette joins us after the news here on Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Keep it here.
I don't know how I survived it. They took turns. One would beat me while the other one was driving. I can't believe it. I just made a mistake. Well, parents are the same no matter time, no place. So to you other kids all across the land, take it from me. Parents just don't understand.
Your whole Mississippi in the know. One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just to hit the ball and touch them all. A moment in the sun. It's gone and you can't tell that one back. Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Put me in cold. I'm ready to play today. Look at me, I can be. Oh, put me in cold.
Had to let it play. You do not interrupt John Fogerty. That is a rock-solid, ironclad rule of life. Mornings on this Friday morning. Presented, of course, by the folks at Community Bank, which is more than just a place to manage your money. They're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, they've been rooted in the community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, they are there for you every step of the way. Dedicated to their customers, committed to your success, and always there when you need them. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. John Fogerty, center field, perfect lead-in music for our guest now. Is he at the stadium now? Can we check? Jim Leggette joins us. Are you are you over at the stadium just waiting for somebody to show up?
No, they won't let me in yet. I'm not that important. But it's kind of going to be a beautiful day. It's a fun thing to do. And in our household, opening day of college baseball is kind of like Christmas morning. My wife has loved that since she was in high school here in town, and she's taught me to like it.
Well, and in Starkville, it's just part of the culture. It's part of the fabric of being in Starkville. If you don't love college baseball, someone will be with you shortly to make sure you do, because that is a big deal up there.
Oh, it's a very big deal. It's and I guess being a North Carolina guy, it's like if you didn't choose up a basketball team, you have no friends for 4 months. But it's more than just a team, and I think you nailed it. It's a culture. We're chatting a little earlier about the whole atmosphere of the outfield and left field lounge. It's really as much a social thing as it is and everybody guys and grills. Everybody's always competitive of who can come up with the best grill stuff, and all the hunters, whatever they killed this season is hitting that grill.
In other words, good eating, which kind of gives you a little bit of a window in why Jim learned to love it so much, I would think. When the food's good, it's easy to be there when the food is good and plentiful. Speaking of plentifulness, let's talk about the economy very quickly. Man, I hate to go from a nice subject to that subject, but
the dismal signs.
yeah, exactly. It's plentifulness might not be necessarily the word to use to describe it overall. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, and then if you look at, we always get our economic news in dribs and drabs because that's how it works. And the way I look at what's going on, you've got some good stuff. The jobs numbers fairly strong. Dow's high growth seems to be not as good as I'd like it, but pretty good. I think we're driven by the gold rush in AI, and we all know it's going to change the world. We just don't have to know exactly how. Heck, I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be talking to you guys. And we've had some good policy things. We've also got some bad policy things. Journal. These thoughts are not mine uniquely. Journal had a decent article about opining about all this, and And I guess maybe that's how economic news works. Only looking backwards did you know how good it was.
And that's always the case. Unfortunately, that's too late to make any plans for the future. When you're looking back at last year and going, here's how it was, that doesn't help you right this moment, which is always a problem. Saw a report, the housing report came out, and housing is kind of not doing too well right now, sales-wise in America, and everybody focuses on that mortgage interest rate. Well, it just dropped this week back to where it was, 3 weeks ago, I think it was, just over 6%. How big of an impact do you think the mortgage interest rate plays in people buying a house?
I think it's I'm going to give a left brain, right brain, or since you would appreciate it, I'm going to say what Mr. Spock would say, and I would say what Dr. McCoy would say. I think emotionally, a lower interest rate gets people to go do stuff. Because you're buying a payment as much as you're buying a house. But we do know over the last, I think this is the right number, since 2019, prices are up like 50%. And that's driving this whole affordability thing. We'll use our community as an example, since I have a little insider knowledge here, is if you want a high-end house, you got plenty of choice, and it's kind of a buyer's market. If you want something regular people can have, or like your entry-level faculty or something like that, if it's a good house at the right price, it goes poof. And so then the other dynamic is, if you can't afford to get the big one, you don't move out of the starter, and everybody's kind of stuck in place. And we do know that housing drives an awful lot of our economy.
Well, and that's part of the problem, is because housing does drive the economy. And you have to think about it. You have to think to the second and third order effects, because the housing market affects the insurance market. It affects the contractor market. It affects the repair people, the service people market. It affects a lot of product sales, because if you don't have a house, you're not buying a lawnmower, you're not hiring a plumber, none of that is happening, and that money is not going into the economy in those sectors. So it's kind of the initial pebble coming off the top of the mountain that leads to the financial avalanche in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and to your point, I think that's why a lot of people watch that, used to carefully watch, I think they still do, carefully watch car sales, because that's a big ticket item. Heck, in some of those trucks, you feel like your parents go, wait a minute, my first house costs less than that. But your point, when you think about, I'm going to use the word tentacles, I don't know if that's the right word, but, it's not just the house. It's the guy taking care of your yard, going to Lowe's. Buddy of mine convinced me of this one day. He said, okay, just go around town and look at all the vehicles moving around that has something to do with your house. Furniture, interior design people. And if that sector runs out of juice, it goes much deeper. It's not just the contractors or builders. It's not just the realtors. So you want to keep that one, a healthy housing market is a sign of a healthy economy. Probably a better way to say it.
Would you think we could even attempt to classify the current housing market as healthy?
I think it depends. It depends. Because there was I think it was on the Drudge report. Of course, Drudge is known for doom and gloom headlines. Yes. Go read the article. Nothing like that. I think it's kind of like my overview of the U.S. whole economy. It has some good stuff and it has some bad stuff. In our town, Starkville, we don't see the ups and downs like you do in other markets. One, it's a small town, and plus the university, keeps it going. And universities tend to weather the storms better than, if you're a company town making automobiles. So I think it's not doom and gloom, but if I were engaged in that industry, say as a builder or something like that, I'd make careful moves.
Yeah, the national number that came in was that housing sales dropped 8%. I went and looked it up just out of curiosity. The Mississippi number, it dropped 4.6%. So sales were down. And that's the other thing that comes into play here, because if the prices are up, which they are, the median house price in Mississippi is over $250,000. You have to have a certain amount of money to be able to afford that, even if you are a note buyer and not a price buyer. That's the two main categories there. Which means we're kind of stuck in a sliding puzzle. For the housing market to get better, wages have to go up. For wages to go up, people have to be making more money. For people to be making more money, and on and on and on. What's the first piece that needs to be moved to get this ball rolling? Because just like working one of those little sliding puzzles where you make the picture, you got to move the pieces in the right order. And I tell you what, we're up against the break. I'll give you the break to think about that.
Plus, my wife gave me an update to use.
Oh, perfect. This is perfect. We're getting on the street reporting now. This is fantastic. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to assimilate all that and concoct an answer, and then we will return with Jim Leggette from Mississippi State. If you want to know something about economics, he's more than willing to guess, because a lot of days in economics, that's about all you could do. Let's be honest. We'll continue with Jim right after this on Mornings. Keep it here.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. Jim Leggette, economics guru from Mississippi State University. I've now given you the title guru. You've had 4 minutes, so I'm sure you've got the solution. How do we fix everything?
Well, I got lots of solutions. Plus, my wife, a real estate broker, between her and her mom, they've been in the business 50 years, and they run the Coldwell Banker office here in Starkville. But a couple things, then we'll go answer the question. She pointed out a very good one, is when you think about real estate, it's Starkville. What's happening in the rest of the country other than setting the mood doesn't really matter. You know, the supply and demand is different. The other thing she said I thought was a fascinating point is because you can't necessarily go out and buy stuff because you're kind of priced out. Let's say you and I have been living in a house for 20 years and it's tired. Used to be you would go out and buy something new. So, you know what? I'll get a contractor. I'll redo the kitchen, redo the bathroom, knock out walls, do all the other stuff. She was telling me those guys are always busy, and the ones who are really good at it have the luxury of, oh, you're a jerk. I'm not going to go work with you. You know, so I thought those were interesting insights. So it must mean there's money flowing around in the market, but not necessarily for purchases. Now, I think the biggest problem, or probably two things. You know, certainly low interest rates would help. But more importantly, what are the incentives for people to build? You know, it's a supply problem. You know, if you look at Starkville, for example, everybody wants to live in Starkville. And so it means it drives the price up. And more is better. You know, that's why some folks, you know, move to West Point or Columbus or out in the middle of nowhere. So I think if we really want to solve that problem, it's incentives to go build, gets you there, which really drives that, is it profitable for builders to go build? And if material costs are out and you got tariffs on imported lumber, that makes it a little bit harder, you know, so, but I think the psychological one would be interest rates. The second one would be if you feel like the world's going to be good. You know, we forget the Dr. McCoy part of the economy. If I feel like the world's going to be good, I'm going to go out and spend money. If I think I'm doomed, I'm going to retrench. So, and I think we were talking about this uncertainty part. I think that's playing a role because if you're a developer or somebody contemplating building a dream house, honey, I don't know whether AI is going to eat my lunch and take my job. Let's pay down stuff because I could be rendered obsolete.
Well, exactly, and I think you just touched on something very important that never gets any coverage. Nobody ever talks about this. Jim Cramer has never screamed about it with his shirt collar unbuttoned, and that's the emotional aspect of economics. Everybody tries to treat it like this exact science. You just add up the numbers and you know everything. No, it doesn't work that way because people's moods are hugely important here, aren't they?
They are, and in fact, and you could debate whether his insights are good. You know, but everybody probably one of the most influential economic thinkers of the 20th century was John Maynard Keynes. In fact, there wouldn't be anything called macroeconomics without him. And he was very proficient in the logic and the math and all that stuff. But then he always would say the world is ruled by the animal spirits. You know, meaning if you're feeling optimistic, you go do stuff, you know. And that psychological aspect, trying to understand that baffles the economics profession. I think partially because the way it's taught, the way it's conducted, we're trying to do something that's called Homo economicus, you know, like Homo sapiens. And then you're like a Mr. Spock. And you know from all those shows, when Spock was in command, it never worked.
No.
You know, you got to do both parts.
Well, and that brings up an interesting question that occurred to me while you were talking because the psychological part of economics is important. Do you guys or have you ever thought of partnering with the psychology department at Mississippi State to work on this?
Well, I haven't, but others in the discipline have, you know, and there's a whole subset something called behavioral economics, and it gets into here's one of its keen insights. Let's say you went to the casino and you just won a bunch of money. That was money you never had to begin with. Instead of just playing it, you get afraid to lose. But, you know, But that's not rational, because the rational brain says, I'm up $1,000 I didn't have before. What the hell? I haven't personally done it, but there's a whole branch called behavioral economics and gets into these things. And I read some book about it a few years ago. It's quite interesting. Things that don't appear rational, but or logical, is probably a better way to say it, are actually reasonable behaviors if you slightly change that. We'll averse the loss. We'll make decisions that we don't want to lose, even though the rational thing, like we just said at the casino, hey, where's my money to begin with? It's just see how it plays.
You're always going to be disappointed. You're always going to be disappointed if you're trying to study your goldfish and you're expecting it to act like a cat.
That's right. You can't help it.
Yeah. But that's a problem.
You set yourself up for failure there.
Every single time. And then what's really disturbing about it is then you somehow find a way to be surprised and shocked that it was so different than what you expected, because you didn't consider all the variables like the species, the basic stuff. But something you mentioned just a moment ago, everything always comes back to the basics. You said it's a supply problem. The first day of your first economics class, you discussed the law of supply and demand, because basically everything revolves around that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the whole discipline. And then, and I also say, two stuff. Law of supply. Everybody says law of supply and demand. It's kind of like scripture. Everybody talks about it, but no one understands it. And we all know, we all probably be guilty of that one, except for me, of course.
Of course,
yourself. Yeah. And the other one is when we say law, you think it's something Congress can go repeal, and they've tried to repeal the law of supply and demand. It's never worked. The Romans couldn't do it. We're not much better of it. And my example in class is, well, good luck trying to repeal the law of gravity. Tell me how that works out. And for some folks, that one takes. Others, when's this guy going to quit talking?
Look, we have seen state legislatures. I think this happened in Tennessee a few years ago. They tried to pass a law making pi equal 3. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. None of this works that way.
It's not pi.
Yeah, it's not pi at that point. It's 3. That's all it is.
Because it's the radius divided by the diameter or something like that.
Yeah, and the problem is that as you keep up with the economic data that is put out, if you listen to what's being said about how we're all doomed, then you're going to feel like we're doomed. If you listen to somebody that says it's all roses and sunshine, you're going to think we're headed off into the best time in the history of humanity. Neither one usually is correct, and it can lead you to make some bad decisions, can it?
I agree. Doom and gloom. The doom and gloom is about as bad as the Dow's going to be 100,000 in 2-year guy. But the other thing to remember, in downturns, of course I can't remember one right now, but some of the best businesses ever have been founded in downturns because people thought they had something special. And, something special means I'm solving a problem for somebody. You can argue all day whether Bill Gates should be a bazillionaire or not, but he's on every darn computer that everybody has, and it solved a problem for folks they didn't know they had. So he delivered value. Whether you're you and I, the guy fixing your AC, or somebody playing with AI. If you're not delivering value to the customer, it ain't going to last.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key to success. Now we're getting into the nuts and bolts part of this, but still the psychology part, because you can provide value that is useful, that solves a problem. But if the customers don't view it as useful and view it as valuable, well, it's still not going to succeed. So the psychology comes back into it even then.
Yeah, in fact, a hard lesson for me to learn when I was working at AT&T, we got seduced by our own technology. And then I had and he was doing it the right way. A senior officer set me aside and said, well, Jim, all that stuff is great. And he made up a word like, the flux capacitor feeds the antimatter inducer valve, and no one cares why. By the way, all that stuff is made up. But if it solves a problem with me, I don't care why it works. I just want to know that it solves a problem for me. And that to me was a very, but in fact, I'm still talking about it, says that was a very grounding moment.
Well, and now we're getting off into the principles of marketing, which I could do an entire show on, but that's okay. I will bring up, though, I think it was John Carlton, the copywriter, who actually said people don't buy a hammer and nail. They buy their grandkids' pictures hanging on the wall in the den.
Yes.
That's the difference between the two. Jim, I enjoyed it as always. We ought to just start our own show at this point. You and I could just kill hours every day, I have no doubt.
And we hope somebody want to hear us talk. Would anybody sponsor us?
There are no guarantees, Jim. There are no guarantees.
From the Seabrook. No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Times have changed and times are strange. Here I come, but I ain't the same. Mama, I'm coming home.
Welcome back. Mornings on SuperTalk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Tippy-type your way on over there and find out what they can do for you. Want to get into a topic I talk about on a fairly regular basis, but it's time. We're heading into another season where the scammers are about to go nuts. You're going to get tired of them, and they continue to get creative. Let me give you a few examples. We have a bank here in Pike County. About a week and a half ago, had to put out a notice and let everyone know that there were scammers targeting them. They were doing the traditional thing of sending out texts with a link that you click to go log in to verify that you did not, in fact, just try to debit $1,400 out of your account when you didn't. So they're flipping that fear switch as usual. But it looks like it's coming from the bank itself. They then gave an update. They had some scammers, might have been the same ones, could have been different ones, who had spoofed the bank's main phone number and their service hotline number and were calling people with the same scam and then asking them for their login information to verify and so forth and so on. Needless to say, never give anybody anything over the phone. With AI, they can have your mama call you. That's what it'll sound like, but it won't be. Basically, ratchet your suspicion up to 100. And the reason why I say it's really picking up right now is we're in tax refund season. When they know people have money coming in, they really double down on their efforts to scam people. Well, just south of the border here down in Livingston Parish, Louisiana, the sheriff's office there yesterday put out a notice. There's an IRS scam. They got a picture of it. Somebody got a package through the mail. It looks very much like it's from the Department of Revenue out of Washington. You had an official letter, had the person that received this mail had all of their information in the letter and instructions on how to prevent ID theft. Also in the envelope, it was a padded mailer, not just a regular flat white envelope. There was a USB flash drive with the IRS logo, but it wasn't printed on the flash drive. It was printed on a piece of paper and then taped to the flash drive with instructions to plug it in on your computer. You know where this is going, right? Right. On the flash drive was a digital copy of the letter and, according to the sheriff's office in Livingston Parish, malware that would be downloaded when you plug it in. You don't have to do anything. You just plug it in. It's going to do it automatically. And that malware was a remote viewing program that allows the scammer to log in on your PC and get all of your information. Anything that you automatically log into, they can get into on your computer. If you just plug it in, they notify people if you receive one of those packages, contact the sheriff's office. Postal Service and the IRS have both been notified of this. So the scams are starting to fly around. Some of them are a little more innocuous. One I want to address, saw a scare post. I was talking with Therese earlier about how so much stuff is driven by implanted fear. There are people out there making good bank off the fact that they can keep you scared of something, of anything. Well, this post in all caps at the top on Facebook, in 7 days, February 17th, the Ring of Fire eclipse will cross the southern United States, and if you're anywhere within the path of annularity or even outside it, watching a partial eclipse, there's one non-negotiable rule: you must protect your eyes at every moment the sun is visible. There's two problems here. There is an eclipse, and this is a great example of taking something that has a kernel of truth in it and blowing it into something ridiculous to try to sensationalize it, make everyone scared, and get attention and get the clicks. They also have included a checklist and a map of the path, and the path shows it going through North Mississippi, right over Oxford, looks like. There is an eclipse next week on Tuesday, the 17th, which will be visible to penguins. It's only going to be visible in Antarctica.
Germans based down there, yeah.
Yes. Now, you may think, well, they just made up that map. Oh, no, the map is real. It's for an eclipse in 2045.
Mm-hmm.
But they take all of these little facts and stitch them together into something that gives them the opportunity to make you scared. That's the common thread that runs through all of this. Those three things I talked about. Somebody just tried to take $1,400 of your money. Someone's trying to steal your ID. The sun is going to laser your eyeballs out of your head. It's always something to scare you. That's why I keep saying, stop buying into everything everybody tells you about why you should be mad, upset, scared, any of that, because it's just a means of control. That's all it is. And now during one of the peak scamming seasons, because again, people have started filing their taxes. That opened up on January 26th. As those refunds start coming in, the scammers know you're about to get big deposits, and they want them. And they'll do anything possible to get it. It brings up something. Back in 1988, down here in Pike County, we, along with the entire rest of America, participated in the Great Satanic Panic of the 80s. Do you know about that?
I remember. Yes, sir.
Yes, I was there. I was here for this specifically. Because an evangelist came into Pike County and was saying that there was a cult operating out of Pike County and they were going to kidnap your kids and skin them. I mean, literally, that's what he was saying. It reached the point to where a reported 30% of school students were kept out of school by their parents. They didn't send them to school because they were so scared. Park Lane was having its prom at the time. The Times-Picayune came up from New Orleans to cover the prom in Macomb, Mississippi, just in case some Satanist charged in with a knife and started skinning people. Now, you look at it, and of course nothing ever came of it, just like the rest of the Satanic Panic. But you look at it, and that's another great example of what I'm talking about. Fear. The national media has become past masters of this at this point. We got to keep you scared. We got to keep you worked up at all times. You must be angry. You must be terrified of the future. Why? Because then you'll click the link they want you to click. You'll stick the flash drive into your USB port on your computer and give them everything you have and ever will have. You will develop the opinions they want you to develop, which allows them to steer you towards something that will make them money. It always comes back to them getting money by keeping you upset.
Yeah, back hundreds of years ago, you had to have a comet pass over Yeah, then you knew bad stuff was going to happen.
Yes.
Now
yes,
it's just, it's right there for you. You can get all the bad news and anything you want. Now you don't have to look up to the sky and wait for a comet or what do they call blood clouds?
I long for the days of signs and portents. Those were good times.
Yeah, man, you had to have like a crow drinking water and all this stuff to make it all add up for what the whatever the religious connotations were to it. But yeah, now it's just bad news.
Back in the 80s, 88. And again, I remember this part of that extremely clearly. I was in my early 20s at that point, and the word got around because, word spreads. There was no internet. We can't totally blame the internet for things, even though we like to default to that. Word got around that the cult was going to be marching down the main street at midnight this Saturday, trying to find people to get them and to do things. So my incredibly intelligent behind, I hear that and go, oh, well. So I went through a drive-through, got me something to eat, and parked my car facing the main street and sat there for an hour waiting for the Satanist to come by because I'm like, I'm going to see this. And, of course, again, nothing happened. Stop believing what you're told just because somebody told you. That's our biggest problem, if you ask me, in America right now.
Well, you're not allowed to be in a good mood.
No. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, like I said, you had to wait for signs, and those may take years and all of that back in the good old days, and snail mail, and you had days where there weren't bad news. You got to actually enjoy yourself. Now it's just raining on your parade all the time, huh?
Everybody talks about going back to the good old days. Well, in the good old days, being happy was not considered un-American.
There you go.
And that's where we're at right now. Easiest way to fight against that? Be happy.
Yeah, don't worry, be happy.
There are two fingers, one on each hand, specifically designed to deal with people trying to keep you scared. Use them on a regular basis. No, not your pinkies. You know which ones I'm talking about. Final break. Got a somewhat similar subject, but not really. Interesting thing about policing and law enforcement. We'll get into that to end the day right after this on Super Talk Mississippi Mornings.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
To do, you're sitting there and you're all alone. You're taking everyone for granted now. You got no place to call your home.
The breadth and depth of the music library Lance Tolbert uses for bumpers on this show, never anything short of impressive. Thank you, buddy. Welcome back. Mornings here on Super Talk Mississippi. May take some people off here. I know, shock.
Oh, do
never
it,
happens.
man. You're at the end here.
Yeah, I'm out the door. I'm headed off for a weekend. Monday's President's Day.
Richard can sweep this up Monday, huh?
I'm going to put out a cherry tree and an axe before I go to bed Sunday night in the hopes that George Washington visits. But
I thought it was Arbor Day all over again.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard the name Sir Robert Peel?
It rings a bell, but I can't place it.
He is recognized by a lot of folks, most folks, as the father of modern policing.
Okay.
Being a policeman. He was in England in the 1830s. Mm-hmm. He had a completely different take on things because up until that point it wasn't organized. Most law enforcement wasn't really paid at all, as opposed to now when they're paid peanuts. But, they were not paid at all. It was not a professional thing. Listen to his rules that he had. I want you for Peel's Police, 1839. It's a flyer that he put out.
I like it.
You must be aged between 23 and 40 years of age. You will be paid the following rates, and listed the pay rates for constable, sergeant, superintendent, and chief constable. By the way, the pay stank then, too. Your working hours will be 8, 10, or 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. Every encouragement will be given to officers to grow beards, as shaving is regarded as unhealthy. However, beards must not exceed 2 inches in length. Uniform will be worn at all times to prevent accusations of spying on the public while in ordinary clothes. You are not allowed to vote in elections.
Wow. Okay.
You must not gossip with the public. Do not walk or converse with your comrades either, merely exchange a word and pass on. You will walk about 20 miles per shift. No rest days are allowed, and only 1 week holiday per year unpaid. No meal breaks are allowed. The top hat may be used to hold a snack. Literally, it says
they're going to start
that.
wearing those stovetop hats, for that.
You must inform the superintendent before you associate, eat, or drink with any civilians. Before attending for medical examination and interview to join the police, it is advisable to have a bath. Things don't change. You are not allowed to sit down in public houses at any time. And you must expect a hostile reception from all sections of the public and be prepared to be assaulted, stoned, or stabbed in the course of your duties. He laid it all right out there. You had to go get approval from your boss if you signed on with Peel back in the 1830s in England. Your boss had to approve if you wanted to take somebody on a date. If you wanted to get married, your supervisor had to approve of it.
Hey, by the way, they do wear those stovepipe hats. That's
yes,
yeah, that's the ones. And Sir Robert did not have any facial hair.
No,
although he expected his guys to grow it all out, I guess.
Yeah, well, to a certain length, 2 inches.
2 inches.
I would be disqualified.
It's healthier.
But he had several different principles. Successful policing is accomplished with the consent of the community. The police are the public, and the public is the police.
There we go.
And
that's what cops is, right? Citizen-owned patrol.
He had the crazy idea that the best indicator of effective policing is not the number of arrests, it's the absence of crime.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the war on drugs. That's been a bit of a moneymaker over the decades.
It's been going on as long as the Cuban Revolution.
Yes, but there are federal grants, federal money that comes in for absence of crime? No. For making arrests, which is in some ways against the Peelian principles of law enforcement. Now, yeah, it's not 1830s England. Things have changed. But at the same time, I would love to see somebody, if they could figure out a way to go a day, a week, whatever, with no crimes in any jurisdiction, hold a press conference to brag about that.
I agree.
No, we hold press conferences to brag about the arrests. Might be focused on the wrong thing, on the wrong goal. Just my thought. I'm going to catch grief for that, but everybody has the same goal here. Make the stupid people stop doing stupid stuff. Just a thought. Enjoyed it as always, sir.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Love my Fridays with you, dude. Have a great weekend.
You too. I will see you again next week at 6:06 a.m. as always, my friend. I'll see you then.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.